Welcome to Sunny Stampin' Studio. My name is Sophia Landry and I'm bringing you my first ever video punch tutorial today. So this is the card that I created just to show off the little punch shapes, and we're doing punch candy. Of course it's Halloween, so this is the perfect time to have some candy. We have the candy corn, the lollipop, and the hard candy in the wrappers, which everyone seems to give all the time. So we're probably going to start off with the hard candy as it's the easiest shape. But to start off with, I'm going to actually show you all the shapes we're using today so that you have them all set, prepped, and ready to go. We're going to be using our 1 3/8 circle punch to create 2 orange circles, which is the pumpkin pie, 1 summer sun circle, 1 orchid opulent circle, and 1 whisper white circle. All of these are the 1 3/8 punch. We're going to be using our 5-petal blossom punch to punch out the same color as our hard candy because that's going to be the tail ends. And we're going to use our boho blossom to punch out 1 orchid opulent flower. For anyone who doesn't know, the boho punch has, well, I can't see it well there, but 3 flowers in it, and we are using the largest one over here, and that's just for the bottom wrapper part of our lollipop. The final piece that we're going to need is a little strip of whisper white cardstock. It's about 2/8 of an inch thick, or a little bit less than a quarter. And it doesn't matter what length because you can trim that to size afterwards. So we're going to start with our hard candy. The only 2 pieces we're going to need for this are the 1 3/8 circle and our matching 5-petal flower punch. So I start off with my Stampin' sponges. These are great sponges. They're nice and soft, easy to use, and they don't become hard when wet or dry. I just do a small little pincer grasp, as you can see, with my fingers. I want a nice thick cushion over here so that I don't leave finger imprints. Now I've chosen to use with this one ruby red. It's a nice warm red. It's going to show up nicely on the orange, and it's going to be quite intense when I want it to be, and light when I want it to be also. So we're going to start off the paper and moving on in a quick circular motion. I always say not to start on the paper because that is the perfect way to leave fingerprints and ink drag marks. Starting off, you get rid of all of that little stuff that you don't want. As you notice, I'm keeping it more intense on one side and very light on the other. I just want to touch on my highlight side. Don't want it to be deep, but over here I have it quite deep so that it looks like the illusion of roundness. You know, the light hits here and it's curving around and starts getting darker. I'm going to do the same to my 5-petal flower punch. But I'm just going to do the ends. I'm not concerned about going into the center because I'm not even using that portion. A little harder to start off the paper with this one because I don't want to rip my little flower petals. Okay, so those are nicely sponged. And now I've got to actually just cut off the pieces that I need. I'm going to take my paper snips and I'm just going to cut a little piece there and the piece here. This is going to leave me with my little tail ends, which will be for my candy. Now I'm not quite finished with my sponging. I find my little circle is a bit too plain. I want to add a little bit of a dent inside, a little kiss that each candy seems to have. So I take my sponge dauber inked with the ruby red also, and I just take it and I give it a little swirl in the center just to add that little shadowy depth, make it look a little rounder with a dimple. I'm going to take my Tombow multi-liquid glue. I'm going to use the thin end, which is just nice for getting the glue where I want it. And you can see I'm just adding a thin little dribble of glue right along the edge. I don't need a lot. You don't want too much. You don't want it squishing out on you. And I'm just going to stick it to my shape. So we have our candy there, but I'm still not perfectly happy. I want just a little something more. I want more highlight. So I'm going to take my white gel pen. I'm going to go to my lightest side, and I'm going to add that little shine on it. Just along all these areas that would have it. Okay, so there's my hard candy. I'm going to move on to our next shape, which is the lollipop. For that, we're going to need the orchid opulence, our little boho blossom, orchid opulence circle. The boho blossom and the small candy stick. Same thing, we are going to ink up, but we're going to do it with the eggplant. I want it to be quite intense and dark. Just reach over and get a little bit more there. Okay, I'm doing the same to my little boho blossom. I'm going down fairly deep though because this is going to be on top and it's going to be shading it. And then I'm going to take a touch of my Tempting Turquoise and I'm going to just put a light bit of the turquoise on the stick so it doesn't seem so pasty white. Now I'm just going to do a quick gluing as soon as it decides to come out for me. There we go. And I'm going to stick my lollipop on top. And then for my stick, all I need to do is just add a thin strip of my mono adhesive. And I gotta do this so I don't. Just stick my lollipop on top, which allows me to pick it up again. And then I just trim it down to the size that I want. Okay. There. So you got yourself a lollipop now. Once again, you're going to add a little bit of shine with our white gel pen. Just helps it look that much rounder. And I'm going to do a little square there to make it look nice. So I don't know if you can see that. Our last shape is going to be the candy corn. For the candy corn, we are going to be using 3 1 3/8 inch circles. So what I do to start is I take my 1 1/4 square punch and I'm just removing the edges of my circle like such. Okay, so it gives me my basic shape like this. I can put that aside. Take my paper snips and I'm going to round it off a little bit. Okay, just to make it a nice bit more round candy cornish shape. Then what I'm going to do, just to simplify, instead of trying to punch it out each time, I'm going to trace it. And that just makes it a little easier to always get the same shape. So I lay my first piece over my second circle, and I'm just tracing it with my pencil. Okay. I'm going to do that to both my pieces. As you see, I already have this one traced, just be a little quicker for you guys. And I'm going to cut them out so that they match my white piece. Okay, so you're going to do that to both pieces. What you're going to end up with is your 3 matching pieces like this. So to start, I'm going to switch that over. I'm going to add just a touch of the turquoise to my candy corn on one side. Remember, you want your shadow to always come in on the same side. It's going to look really weird if you have shadows coming in from all directions. So I added just a touch of my Tempting Turquoise over here. And now these two I'm going to have to lay on top, but in different levels. So I'm going to have, my first level is going to be the orange. I take my piece in my hand, my paper snips in the other, and I cut it as a curve. Okay, so the top can go on top of my white base. I take my yellow piece, I take my paper snips, and I cut it in a curve, just like the top. And I have my bottom piece, which is going to be layered on top. So we have, on the bottom I mean, we have a top piece, we have a bottom piece, and our white is the only one showing over there for the middle. So now I already have my pieces sponged and ready to go. You guys have now got an idea of how to do the sponging. We're just going to glue the pieces. Now right now these pieces are fairly big and easy to work with, so I'm not going to bother getting out my tweezers. But when I start doing some of the much smaller shapes, you're going to see that I use tweezers a lot because it's really hard to not get them to stick to your fingers when gluing when you've got a really tiny piece. Okay, so I have my basic shape there, but it goes a little bit over. My pencil, of course, couldn't do it perfectly. So I flip it over, I trim it off, the little excess, and there you got your candy corn. The only thing missing is a little bit of highlight. So there you have it. We have 3 great little candies that you can use to create different projects for your Halloween fun.